Hello, everybody. We are going to be doing another episode of Wax and Wings. As you know, I am Artemis, and this is Tiffany. And we are going to be talking about what's in a name today. This is really exciting for us because we are naming our as of yet unnamed Hades and Persephone project that we are working on the channel. So, yay!
All right, where do we start?
um,
I
well, we've
think
talked a little bit.
pulling up our notes is probably a good start.
I have the notes open.
You cheater! You're ahead of me.
It's okay. Um, so I think what we can do, like we've talked a bit about what the storyline is already. We can kind of recap that really quick and talk about why we're thinking the couple of names that we have picked out. And then ultimately figure out what we like the most and what we want to officially call it. So,
Mhm.
uh, so what's the story about?
Greek gods are dying,
Zeus has died.
and everyone is panicking. No. I'm trying
So
to
we kind
find
of
where you are on the document.
I'm on the Hades and Persephone
Oh,
tab.
okay.
Hello.
What is our story? That's a good place to start.
Right. So we kind of talked about this a little bit already. We were talking in the last episode about how our story kind of follows the Greek gods and them kind of assuming new aliases in modern era, trying to keep getting their tributes and things like that to keep people believing in what they are doing and so that they can keep their powers. And if they don't do that, then they start to age. And if people stop believing in what they stand for, then they can even go so far as to die. So at the start of the story, Zeus is dead. Zeus
Yep.
has passed away. They
Kick
are
the
all
bucket.
meeting. Yep. They are all meeting for a funeral. And they're kind of deciding what to do. Um, some of the gods are older than others in terms of like physical age. Others are young and in their prime because they're believed in at the moment, for lack of a better way to put that. They are, the gods
Your
of
camera stalled.
it didn't stall on my side.
Okay, it caught up.
Okay. Okay. um, where was I? Oh yeah. So the gods that are currently thriving are the gods of chaos and war, and Hades because he is the god of the underworld. But Persephone is starting to age, and that is because she is both underworld and fertility,
Mhm.
growth and death, and the basically continuing on of the life cycle of Demeter, her mother. So she's kind of caught at an impasse where she doesn't want to keep fighting for people to believe in her, but at the same time, she doesn't want to give up her powers of growth and fertility and spraying and all of those like
Mhm.
thriving things because she knows if I give those things up, then I can live forever because I have death powers. Like, death is always going to be relevant, no matter who is in power or what you believe. Mortals are always going to inevitably die.
Yeah.
So, um, you want to take over and talk a bit about it?
Uh, Hades is thriving, as you said, because people are dying. There's war, there's chaos, famine, just basically we're taking things that are relevant to everyday life and putting them in a blender and using them in our story.
Yeah.
And uh, we have this idea where Hades and Persephone talk about this over playing chess in a park somewhere, uh, meeting up either before or after the funeral of Zeus. And I don't think we really discuss uh, too much about their relationship with the other gods, but
We haven't. I think we wanted to have this jumping off point, figure out who the main characters were, and then kind of come to the story later once we
mhm,
have things kind of solidified on the design aspect. So, like, we picked who would be involved in the story,
yeah,
but
we
we
have a
haven't
whole
really
list.
talked. Yeah, we haven't really talked about like who is going to, be friends, foes, whatever the case may be. Um, there
But
are some
go ahead.
there are some gods that we haven't like researched as much that are
Mhm,
potential their potential to either show up or be mentioned in some way without
mhm,
actively having like as much designed. So like for example, Hecate, she is a goddess in the underworld. Um, she may not necessarily have a temple call out or something like that. She might be a minor character if we put her in, but she's one that could potentially make an appearance.
like, we have a little note here on our sheet that says, "Do we want to add Minthy?"
Yep.
So, uh, basically, we have all these characters, but the main focus is going to be on Hades and Persephone, and we do know that we want their story to be one of reconciliation, and uh, they have this, like, turbulent history, but they have grown either comfortable or truly into this whole dramatic love story where they used to hate each other, but now they don't.
Or, they have always been, extreme opposites of each other,
Mhm.
like, and they found a compromise in between
Yeah.
or something. Like,
Love
there's,
and death,
yeah. So there's a lot that we can play with that
life and
particular
death.
myth
Life
too.
and death, that's what I meant.
Li- I knew what you meant. But yeah, we've got a lot of ideas for that. We've got ideas for some of the characters, potentially what they may be doing, but a lot of it is still very like blue sky kind of,
Up in the air.
yeah, up in the air. Nothing super solidified. We've got the vibes, the rough story, and the initial design started. So
Yeah, we
this is,
finally started drawing.
I know, right? I'm really excited about
It
that.
took us 5 months. 4 months?
Yep.
5 months?
Um, we started talking about this in
December.
December, and it's May. So yeah, 5 months.
I mean, we started drawing last month.
We
I
started
think
drawing last month, yeah. Um, but yeah, it has been 5 months since we started talking this over. So, like, it's exciting to get into the artwork. It's exciting to kind of pull what we know from these myths and stuff like that and make
mhm.
them into tangible characters. So,
Yeah, it's fun
another
to
thing,
actually get into the project instead of just
yeah,
talking about it.
exactly. Another thing that we have been talking about is that once we finish the environments for the temples, we're going to go into the character design of the gods that we had started. I know character design is your forte. I like character design. I am not the best at
You're
it,
good
but
at
I
it.
like it.
You're good at it.
There are definitely better. But I'm excited to get into that because I have a lot of ideas for Demeter, since that's who I started with, and I think it's going to be
I
fun
expect lots of
to.
flowers.
Lots of flowers and new agey stuff. So I'm excited for it. Um, but yeah, that being said, now if you want to switch over to the podcast page, um, that's where I'm at. Uh, the names that we started to kind of brainstorm,
Hmm.
we have two that we had noted down here. One of
One for
them
me and
is
one for you.
Yep. One of them is pomegranate seeds. That's one that Tiffany suggested. And then the one that I suggested was ephemeral immortal. I can never say that.
Ephemeral.
Ephemeral immortality. Ephemeral is it means like not lasting. It's kind of like there but not. Um, like smoke. Smoke is usually considered ephemeral. Fog, those types of things. So kind of like it's gone in a flash, but it's always there kind of idea for that name.
So,
So do we
where do
want to
we start?
brainstorm? Do you want to brainstorm some more, or do you like those two names? Do we want to? Um,
I like those two names, but I'm definitely open to brainstorming some more.
okay,
I think if you trip over the word ephemeral, then others will definitely trip over it,
right?
and they may not know the meaning of it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Pomegranate uh, is associated with the underworld. It's associated with Persephone. That's a pro and a con
Yep.
because we already have that connection, but at the same time, everyone else already has that connection.
Well, and also pomegranates are connected to other goddesses as well.
So
They are
therefore, help them out.
connected to, yeah, basically. They're connected to Hera, Demeter, and uh, I think they're also connected to Athena and Artemis. So
Artemis.
we were going to start brainstorming some ideas for names.
Okay. All right. So, well, I like my pomegranate seeds and your ephemeral immortality. I think we definitely need to come up with some alternatives.
Right. Um,
Who's here?
Hi, Nico. Well, I'm not sure where to start with brainstorming something. Excuse me.
What is in a name? What did we actually write? Yeah, we had no idea when we started this podcast either, did we?
No, we didn't because we were talking about the tropes that we were working with and what kind of what kind of stuff we were going to try and flesh out and say with this. So, um,
Where do we start brainstorming?
well, pomegranate seeds, like we could take the idea of seeds and run with that.
Okay.
Um,
Seeds of immortality?
right? Seeds of life. Um,
Seeds of death.
right. I like that. Um,
Because it starts with uh, a death.
Well, and also like pomegranate seeds visually look like blood drops. So
Mm,
we could do something with the like title screen where it's pomegranate seeds that are like broken and starting
mhm,
to like splatter.
mhm.
If we did do something like that, the number six is pertinent because Persephone eats six pomegranate seeds, and that's why she needs to stay in the underworld for 6 months at a time. Um, we could call it six seeds,
Mm,
six seeds of death,
that feels more like a series
right?
or going on a quest. Mm, six seeds of death has a ring to it.
Right? I do like that one. Hmm.
I have a feeling this podcast is going to be full of a lot of ums and hms and oohing.
Oh, we're gonna edit that down, but you know, can you think of anything else?
I'm trying. Um, what represents them both?
What represents them both?
Can you think of anything other than just like the obvious underworld?
I'm Googling at the moment.
Use your Google foo.
Yep. The cypress tree is associated with both. The pomegranate is associated with both, and cornucopias. The narcissus flower too.
Hmm. Maybe something with branches.
Maybe.
Hmm.
Heavy bough, maybe. Um, Thinking about like branches sagging under the weight of something. It's a little bit more obscure, but like think about like the heaviness of depression, and we've talked about Persephone being depressed and losing the will to live.
Hmm.
Um,
Uh, the weight of. Hmm. I had something and then I lost
that's okay.
it. Like if you look at the pomegranate trees, they kind of sag down, you know?
Yeah,
So the weight of the fruit, the weight of
heavy fruit.
burdens of immortality, burdens of hmm,
Burdens
I
of
don't
the
know.
seeds.
Hmm.
Hi, William.
Hi, William. Let's see. Do we want to go poetic or do we want to go literal?
I kind of want to go poetic, but I always want to go poetic.
I don't mind going poetic.
About gossamer immortality. Gossamer is like a gauzy
Yeah,
veil fabric.
yeah.
So thinking about fate and the veil being
Okay.
thin.
I like the word gossamer. Let's keep it.
Okay.
But I don't like the word immortality. I think it's too on the nose.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah. Um, Gossamer vitality.
Mm, if we're gonna go poetic, what can we use in place of those kind of words?
Mm,
Like, um, like we were already using seeds, gossamer. What can we use to hint
Gossamer
at?
gloves.
Mm, what can we use for life?
Well, that's why I went for vitality. Um,
Oh, oh, the fates. They cut strands,
yeah, threads.
gossamer threads,
Nice. Okay.
threads of gossamer. Is that what you're writing?
I was gonna try and be slightly more poetic, but than that, but my brain is starting to give up. So threads of scarlet gossamer.
Yes. Okay, if we want to go really poetic, uh, gossamer threads among fields of barley.
Mm, that's a little too far, I think.
I like threads of scarlet gossamer.
Okay.
Um, do we have a different word for scarlet?
I mean, different colors of red.
What best
Um,
describes pomegranate?
um, According to Wikipedia, the term ballastine is used for pomegranate red.
Interesting.
I don't know. No one will know what that means.
No. There's a movie called The Color of Pomegranates. It was
That's
made in
fun.
1969.
Okay. Garnet.
Isn't that kind of like a orangey color?
No, it's like a burgundy.
Hmm. Do we like garnet?
I like the crystal connotation, um, because that's a hint to the underworld. But um,
How does it sound? Threads of garnet gossamer. Kind of
doesn't
an
sound bad.
alliteration.
Yeah.
I'm looking at purple red colors.
Yep. Me too.
Ferrari is a red.
Yeah.
Carmine.
Carmine's a good name, but that's like a pinky red.
Yeah. crimson, burgundy, ruby.
Yeah, ruby is usually attributed to pomegranates. Um,
Vanillion? Vermilion.
vermilion. I love the name of that color, but I don't think the color fits.
Okay. I've never heard of vanillion. I'm looking at it, but I've never heard of
Right.
it. Sangria. Yeah, I think either garnet or scarlet.
Yeah, I like scarlet better.
Okay.
Threads of scarlet gossamer, threads of garnet gossamer. I think scarlet sounds better. The alliteration isn't bad, but it's like awkward to switch between the two words.
Hmm.
So my vote is scarlet.
Same.
Okay.
Did we just come up with a name?
I think we did. So, like, for those of you who are listening, like, the reason why we were going through all of this was just kind of to show you the process of how we name things. So, the meaning is actually really in depth for that. It's not just like throwing a dart at the board and seeing what sticks. But I think we have our name, Threads of
Yeah.
Scarlet Gossamer. So now we can stop calling it the Unnamed Hades and Persephone Project.
Yeah, because the threads kind of allude to fate.
Hmm.
Scarlet represents the pomegranates.
Yep, and Gossamer is the thinness of the veil,
Hmm. So it's a meaningful name and it sounds cool.
right? Hooray! All right, we have our name. So
Yay.
I think with that, that also wraps up our podcast. So
Awesome.
we are doing this the podcast episodes once per month. So our next one will be out in June. Um, this one, hi William. This one should be out sometime in the middle of May. I think it. Yep, we said May 19th is when it comes out. So,
Yep. I'm looking at it
um,
right now.
yep. So, with that, by the next podcast, we should be done with our first sketches and maybe potentially into the character design aspects.
And for the podcast, thank you all for joining.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you next time. We'll probably have a dev log out before the next podcast. So
Yeah. Have a good one.
bye.
Bye.